Hello and welcome everyone. Today we've got a couple of really fun cards. We've got a new set over at Spellbinders from Frank Garcia Studios. And the first die set I'm showing you here is the Keepsake swans. And these swans are really very detailed and very pretty. They've got some beautiful bows on them. There are 13 cutting dies with this particular die set here, and we are going to be working with it today on our video. And the second die set we have is called Couture Dress Form, and there are 5 cutting dies with this. You've got the dress stand, and then you've got a dress. And so we've just got 5 simple cutting dies, and I think it makes a really cute piece for your card. We have also got the heirloom words, and we have sentiments such as happy birthday, only one life, document, every story. We've got story, a heart full of memories, find a piece of me in every stitch, believe in the magic your hands create. And then we have a press plate that is called Vintage Atelier, and it is huge. It is bigger than the Glimmer panel. And then we have the Haberdashery Buttons 3D embossing folder, which is gorgeous. And we've also got the Ribbons and Seams 3D embossing folder. And we're going to work with all of this product on today's video and create 2 cards. I'll do some glimmering to start off. So if you want to watch some glimmering, we're going to get going on that. And we're going to glimmer several panels and our sentiments. So I'm going to use this matte gold glimmer foil from Spellbinders, and we'll get to glimmering on our panels. So I'm just going to grab my press plate, and like I said, this plate is very large. It's larger than the platen for the glimmer, and I didn't realize it until I got it on there. I did realize, because I was thinking, oh, you could do a 5x7 with this because it's so large, and then when I went to put it on the glimmer machine, I realized that it was a bit larger than the platen area. So I'm just going to grab a good amount of this matte gold foil, and we'll use it for our cards. I'm going to do a couple of panels with the press plate, and then we'll also glimmer up our sentiments so that we'll have sentiments ready for our card. Now I have had my glimmer machine setting aside. Here I'm showing you it's longer than the area on the glimmer machine. I don't know if they make glimmer machines that are larger than what the platinum or the Spellbinders glimmer machine is, but if they do, you could certainly use this on them. I think it's nice to have an option that you could use, for a 5x7. And you could even at this, because the glimmer's large enough that you could get enough foil and paper on there. It's just a little bit longer than that. So I'm not familiar if he made this for, a larger glimmer machine, or I'm just not familiar. But anyway, it's going to work out just fine. It makes it a little tight pressing when you go to run it through your die cutting machine, but otherwise it works out just fine. So I have got some chiffon cardstock here, and I'm just trying to line it up to where it's straight. That's what I'm doing. And then I'll get my shim and my plate laid down on there, and you can see it's ready. I'm going to start the timer, and with the magic of videoing, we'll cut some of the time out and speed it up. So I brought in another panel, and I'm going to bring in that same matte gold, and we're going to just glimmer up 2 of them. I won't use this one for our card, but I just wanted to see what it would look like on a darker color as well. So I'm going to bring in my Spellbinders Platinum 6, and we're just going to run it through and get our first peek at this. And you can see right there, it's getting a little bit hard to turn. And so we'll get that out of there. I'm going to bring this Platinum 6 in and out because I need space on my desk, but we're going to do the big reveal. And look at that, it just glimmered beautifully. Now I'm going to do this other panel just to kind of get a feel for what it looks like with the darker color with the gold, and we'll glimmer it up. I think I'll go off camera and then come back in with this panel, and we'll be set up with our sentiments because we're doing quite a bit of glimmering, and I thought you probably just didn't want to set and watch a light flashing. Now I love this set, specifically the Couture dress form and then this press plate. My nephew is a seamstress and does some costumes for different shows and makes fancy dresses, and I believe he has a dress form that he uses. And so I thought this was really cool. Something that, in fact, I showed him the die set when he was over at my house the other day, because I was like, oh, look at this. And he thought it was really interesting. And then the button 3D embossing folder, I thought it'd be super fun. So I'm sure that I can make some type of a card. In fact, I like the card design that I used on this, and it says believe in the magic your hands create. I think that'd be a great card for him just because he does create all of these fantastic dresses and stuff. So I'm thinking I might give him that card. Anyway, so I've got my 2 plates, and now we're going to get our sentiments pressed through there. And I just used some alabaster cardstock, and we used that matte gold foil. And I'm just going to get my tweezers so I can get a hold of this. And we've got all of our sentiments ready to go. And now I'm set for my 2 cards. Now this is one of those that, does all the sentiments at once and then die cuts them all out at once. So I'm going to get my die laid down on there. I'm going to bring in some washi tape and get it lined up. And then we'll get it die cut out. Now I mentioned, and I've been filming ahead because I've got some commitments coming up. And so I'm filming things ahead, so not sure when this will run in comparison to where we're at now. But this evening I'm going to have 3 of the grandsons overnight. My youngest grandson is going to get up very early in the morning and have a little surgery. And so I had planned to have the 2 older boys, and then the 3rd oldest boy is going to come stay. And that way we won't have to get up early to go get him while his brother is having surgery. So anyway, so I'm showing you there's a little bit of overfoiling on this sentiment and some of the others. And if you'll just take a little piece of washi tape and just touch it on there, it will pull off the overfoiling and it will leave the foil that you want left on there. So I'm just touching that washi tape to little areas where there was a little bit of overfoiling. I think I got distracted and left the plate on there longer than I should have because I turned the camera off and was doing some other stuff and then came back in. But anyway, so I'm going to bring in the haberdashery buttons, and we're going to use this, I think this is Bellini cardstock here, and we're going to press this. And then for the actually that was the ribbons and seams. For the haberdashery buttons, we're going to use the alabaster. Sorry, I got those mixed up. And we'll just run them through the die cutting machine, and we'll have 2 beautifully embossed panels. Look at this ribbons and seams. Isn't that gorgeous? Great texture, beautiful. I love the patterns. And then we've got the buttons, and it's super fun as well. So I'm going to show you something, a little trick that you can do. I took one of my little circle dies and I die cut out some circle pieces. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to I'm going to bring in a little tape runner. I'm using the tape runner because I tried it without and I need it. And I'm just going to position these circles on some of the buttons, and then I'll go off camera and I'll die cut them out, and we'll have some little buttons. I'm going to use one of them on one of my cards, but I thought I would just do several of them. That way, if it doesn't turn out, I can grab one that turns out. But you can just lay these little circles on here and just, line them up. I use the tape to hold them in place so that once I get them where I want them, they will not fall out. And so I just gave it a little press. And I didn't have any trouble with the tape kind of mucking up my embossing folder. That wasn't a problem. So this is definitely doable. If you did, you could probably use some alcohol or something like that and clean it off. So I'm opening and closing to make sure that I have it lined up right. If you close it, you can see the impression of the front of it and tell if you've got it lined up right. So it's helpful to open and close and get it where you want it. Now I'm going to take these to the die cutting machine. We'll come back in, and I had to use my little Spellbinders spatula to get underneath there and pull them off because I do have them taped down. And once the tape is pressed into that, it kind of makes it a little bit hard to get them out of there, but we'll just use that and just kind of scraped them off. And then I had 4 little buttons. I will use one of them for my card today. So I'm just going to lay those aside. I was thinking if I needed to bring in some release paper because they had a little tape on the bottom, but they weren't sticking too bad. So we're going to start with our haberdashery buttons and 3D embossed panel, and we're going to get it laid down. I've just got an alabaster card base, and we've got this alabaster button panel here. We're going to get it laid down on there, and we've got a nice base for our press plate panel. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to cut it down. I had in my mind that I was going to do 3 3/4 by 5, and then I decided to do 3.5 by 4 3/4 because I want a good amount of that 3D embossing folder to show because it's so pretty and it has so much detail. So that's going to work out. I think we're going to have enough of our 3D embossed panel show up. So I'm going to begin assembling this. Now I've got a alabaster piece die cut and I've got a heavy cardstock here. This is some more of that poster board that I have left over from the VBS project. And so it's real heavy duty and sturdy, and I wanted to add it to add some dimension and some sturdiness to my little dress form. And so we just layered it up. We've got our little dress. Now the dress has, it could be like a tank top dress, like just little thin straps, but it also has 2 add-ons that are like little ruffles that'll go on there. And I'll get this laid down and forget to put those on it, and then I'll come back in and do that. I kind of get overzealous in assembling the card, and I forget some pieces, and then I look at the card and I realize that I've forgotten some pieces, and we'll come back in and add them. So this is where I'm going to grab the little sleeves and I'm going to add them on. I decided that the top piece of the sleeve I would put underneath the strap, and then the back piece I would put behind the dress form. That's just how I did it because of the way I've assembled it. You can do it however you want to, but it all comes together. And basically, in doing the way that I did it, it almost looked like almost like the sleeve was rounded like a sleeve would be, and it worked out pretty nice. So I'm just going to give this laid down there, give it a little pinch because we've got glue on there already. And there's that. Now there's another layer in there, and we're just going to grab those, and I'm going to stick those from behind, and it just makes it look like just a little cap sleeve. So we'll get some glue on there and get it attached. And I'm going to try and get it lined up and give it a little press with my finger, and then we'll grab the other side and do it. And now we've got our little ruffled sleeve on our dress. Super, super cute. It'd be fun if you had a little set of pearls. You could probably use some of your beads, your embellishments, and add a little pearl necklace around there. That'd be kind of fun sitting there. Anyway, so we're going to get this laid down on our card base. And this is where I got overzealous. I'm like, oh, yeah, let's get this laid down and see how it looks on this glimmered panel. And I don't get the belt on the dress yet. But we'll come back in and get it here real quick. I'm going to grab my sentiment. And this is the one I chose, Believe in the Magic Your Hands Create. And I specifically chose that for my nephew. And I thought it was a great sentiment for our crafting community. That we need to believe in the magic our hands create, because we create magic every day with the things that we do. It's super fun. So I'm going to lay this down just kind of over the bottom of my dress form. And then I've got some of this gold metallic thread floss from Spellbinders. It's the Diamond Grande DMC, and we're going to just put a little tape runner on there, and I'm going to run probably I'm going to run around this panel 3 times and then create a bow on here and just add some extra interest to our card. Just get this wrapped around. I'm going to fumble around with it a little bit, and then we'll get it tied off and create a little bow. This is where you need another set of hands. I should have brought my tweezers in and just tweezed them, but I'm going to do the best I can. And I'm going to put a little knot in here, and then we'll add a bow and just give it a good tightening there. And then we're going to add our bow and get it positioned how we want it. And I've got a lot of extra string there that I really don't need, so we'll get it sized down the size we want, and then we'll clip that off. Just tighten it up real nice and neat. And then we're going to grab these strings and we're going to cut them off. And then this is where I'm going to get my bow positioned, and I'm going to bring in the little button that I created. And I'm just going to add it to the center of my bow. And it's just going to be an extra little embellishment with some texture on it. And so I'm going to get it. I'm going to bring in one of my little foam squares, and we'll just stick that right over the center of our bow. And we've got a little button on there, and it's super cute. Love it. So now we're ready to get this laid down on the panel. Still haven't noticed that you haven't put your belt on yet. So I'll just keep going. And I started to glue it, and then I decided, nope, we've got this floss on here. Let's go ahead and put some tape on there. And I'm going to kind of stick a little bit of the foam tape to that, and then we'll lift it up, and that way we won't have like any unevenness that maybe the floss would have made on the card. So I'm going to get it laid down on our panel, and I'm looking at it. Isn't that cute? And then I realized I did not put the belt on there, and so I'm going to grab the belt and all the little pieces. And there's still a tiny little piece that I didn't pull out. The center of the belt, I didn't pull it out. Now this is the top of the dress form. It's just a little decorative element that goes to the top of the dress form. Now we've got the waist to our belt, and I'm going to get it laid down on here. This is it right here, and it goes in this direction. I try the other way just to double check myself, but this is how it goes. And we'll get it laid down on here. And then we'll add the ribbons to our belt. Here's the teeny tiny little piece. You need those teeny tiny little tweezers from Spellbinders to pick up that little bitty thing. So we're just going to layer this up. The long one goes on first, and then you add the shorter one on top of it, and then the little knot to the belt is going to go on there. And for that, I'm cleaning off the tip of my glue so I get just the faintest amount. I've got my little wax tool from Spellbinders, and I got it laid down on there. Now we've got it all together, and we've got a great card. So next we're going to come in and we're going to bring in our Ribbons and Seam 3D embossing folder. And again, we're just going to lay it down on an alabaster card base, and we're going to cover the whole base with this. We didn't trim it down at all. We're just going to cover it all up, and it's just so gorgeous. And I decided to zoom in on my camera so that you come in close up and you could kind of see the assembly a little bit easier. So we've got a little tighter scene. So we've got the bow pieces here. We've got the swan's feathers, and we've got the beak and the nose piece, nose area and everything. I'm just going to take the black beak area. This includes the eye of the swan, and then it has the area where you're going to lay the beak on top of it, and it makes just a nice looking swan face. So there's a tiny little hole in that circle element at the top of the beak that is where the swan's eye is. Great detail on this. And so we've got that swan, the little face on there, and then we're going to put the feather on there, and we're just going to lay it down. And then here is the assembly guide that you can pick up on the Spellbinders website. If you go to the picture area for the die set, scroll through there, you find that, right click, open up in a new window and print it, and then you'll have the assembly guide. I say that a lot on my channel when I'm working with these things because I get a lot of questions about it. So I'm going to lay the centerpiece to the bow. This bow is very simple. It's just a regular bow with some some ribbons that are hanging down there, and then your knot. And we're going to get this laid on this particular swan. Now this next one, the bow is a little bit more interesting, and I'll fiddle with it a little bit. We're going to go ahead, and I needed to pop that little tiny dot out of that so that the white of the eye would show. And I'm going to get it laid down on here, and then we'll get our little beak on there, and we'll get it pressed down. And then we're going to get the feather, get it added. And you could pop this up if you want. I didn't because we're going to have those bows on there. I'm just going to lay it straight down. And then we've got our little feather. And you can move them forward a little bit or however you want to do it. Now, this bow has got, it's almost like it puts me in the mind of a shawl with a bow on it. The way this comes together. It has multiple layers, and the way that it's positioned on the swan, it looks like the swan has got a little shawl with a bow on it, is what it looks like to me. Very, very pretty. Very, very fancy, I should say. So that is, I guess, the first layer of that side. And then we're going to get the first layer of the next side. I don't know, I just did side to side. And then these pieces here are going to layer on top. So we'll go ahead and get this connected, and then we'll add the others. I'm checking the assembly guide to make sure that I'm doing it right. That's what I'm doing off to the side there. And I'm just going to put a little bit of glue below here, and we'll get it laid down on there. And then there's a piece that layers right on top of the lighter color. I'm thinking on the bottom, but it actually goes right on top there. So we'll just glue that down. And then we've got a piece that goes on top of the other side of it. And this is super cute. I used to have a little shawl like this when I was a kid. A little, I think they call them ponchos now, but this is more like a, doesn't seem as long as a poncho. Anyway, so I'm going to get this laid down on there. We've got a really nice decorative element. We've got the bow, we've got the knot for the bow, and then the two sides. So I'm going to figure out how to get this assembled, and we'll get it laid down on our swan. Now I cut out just a little bit of fiddling there, but I've got it arranged, and I'm going to get my little bow laid down on there, and then we can add our little knot to it. So we'll just put a little bit of glue on there, just give it a little press. And then we've got this little tiny knot that we're going to add to it. And it's super cute. Look at that. Isn't that darling? So we'll, I'm trying to get it positioned how I want it. And we're going to get a little glue on there. I've got that foam square on the back of it. So it's going to be popped up a little bit. And we've got our two swans assembled. And I think they're gorgeous. Very pretty. So we've got this beautiful 3D embossed panel, and I'm bringing in the ripped edge circles, and this is was released from Spellbinders not too long ago. It's a nesting set, but I thought it would be pretty on there and just give a little landing zone for our swans. So I'm going to get it laid down on there, and this is just going to give us a grounding point to put our swans on. So we'll just kind of dry fit them and see how we want them. And then once I'm satisfied, I'll get some glue laid down on there, and we'll get our swans positioned. And that circle didn't have to be big enough because you can kind of hang off the edges there a little bit. I think it looks fine. And it's very pretty. I think they're just looking at each other and just probably chatting away. And so for this one, I decided to just go ahead and grab the happy birthday sentiment. Wasn't sure what I wanted to use it for, but I can always use a happy birthday card, and I think it's pretty. So I'll bring that in, and we'll get it laid down on our card base. And again, I saw some overfoiling, so I had my washi tape and was just touching it to there and picking up the overfoiling. So I'm just going to lay this happy birthday down across my little ripped edge circle and just let it hang off on the embossing folder. And I had some light, real pale pink blush embellishments, and I'm just going to bring some of those in and just kind of fill in some space. I'm going to put one here by the swan, and then I'm going to put two below the other swan and just add a couple little embellishments to it, and I think it looks really pretty. And we've got two really, really pretty cards. So here we go. Look at that 3D embossed panel and those bows, gorgeous. And then we've got our glimmered dress couture, and I think they're super pretty. So I've taken a couple pictures so you can see them close up. I hope you like them. If you do, consider hitting that like, and if you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you subscribe. Thanks for watching. Here's a couple more videos you might like.